sort of thing as usual. And of course, you have things like the indices and that sort of stuff that you have for the Dow Jones, the Standard & Poor's 500. They also do a futures on those, what they think it's going to be worth and what they think it's going to be at that time and so forth. But I think it's going to be in September in this particular case. They generally do those a few months ahead of time, about 2 to 3 months ahead of time. Last update, it talks about these things are really sort of, they go up and down, they're volatile in a way, but like I said, the weather can affect them, the pricing of the commodity at a certain time of year or a certain place, and whether the cattle are eating more of the wheat or they're not, and so forth, and different things that are natural and things that are based around farming ideas. And of course, the crude oil is based around whether you get the oil in the manufacturing refinery. And also, it depends on what you want to invest in terms of commodity. There are different aspects to different ones of these. In other words, if you're talking about crude oil, if you're talking about I want to invest, if you just go to somebody and say I want to invest in oil, they're going to ask you at what stage. Okay, then if you don't understand what they're talking about, well, then you just go and say I want to invest in oil. Well, they're going to ask you, do you want it at the beginning stage? Do you want it at the middle stage? Do you want it at the end stage? Do you want it to production? Do you want it to fracking? You have to understand what all these different terms and words mean. Essentially, it's the beginning, middle, and end. It's when they're first starting out, exploratory, looking for oil. It's when they've actually got it up and going, or it's when they're producing and they're getting their quota and they know how much is there and so forth and so on. For example, somebody like BP in Alaska, they have one that they already have that's up and going. They have a timeline that they have for 30 years that it's going to be producing so many barrels of oil and so forth. So they've got a certain amount that they can afford to invest, and so people can say, all right, this is what we know that it will be worth up until this time. Whereas if it's somebody that's just starting out, or has just been bought or what have you, then they'll have that uncertainty and they won't have as much of a basis for what it's worth until they know how much they're going to actually get out of it. And that's where the middle comes in, is they're working toward that goal for the middle part. So when somebody asks, well, I want to invest in oil, ask them at what stage.